Boy Kills World. Is it good? Is it bad? Should you be watching it right now? Well, stick around because we're diving deep into all the action, Easter eggs, and everything in between. And trust me, there's a lot to unpack. All right, first things first, let's talk about what Boy Kills World is all about. If you haven't seen the trailer yet, go check it out. It's wild. The movie follows a young boy who, after a traumatic event, is trained by a shaman to become an unstoppable warrior in a dystopian world. Think Mad Max meets The Raid with a sprinkle of John Wick. Yeah, that intense. So let's get into what makes this movie tick. There are some really cool things happening here. First up, the action. The choreography is top notch. It's fast paced, brutal, and incredibly well shot. If you're an action junkie, this movie is going to be right up your alley. The director really knows how to keep you on the edge of your seat. Speaking of the director, let's talk about some of the creative choices. The world building in Boy Kills World is fantastic. The dystopian setting is gritty and immersive.
Let's do this.
You really get a sense of this broken world and the desperation of the characters. The set design and cinematography work together to create this bleak, yet strangely beautiful environment. All right, now let's dive into some of the Easter eggs because, oh boy, there are a few hidden gems in this movie. Did you catch that? In this scene, there's a poster in the background that references an old martial arts film from the 80s. It's a nice little nod to the genre and adds a layer of depth for fans who know their stuff. And that's not all. There's also a subtle reference to The Matrix in one of the fight scenes. Watch closely and you'll see a character pull off a move that's straight out of Neo's playbook. It's these little touches that make watching Boy Kills World such a treat for movie buffs. One of the things I really liked about Boy Kills World is the character development. Our protagonist, Boy, starts off as this innocent kid who's thrust into a world of violence. Watching his transformation into a hardened warrior is both heartbreaking and exhilarating. The actor does a phenomenal job of portraying this evolution. And can we talk about the shaman for a second? This character is such a badass. His training methods are intense and borderline insane, but you can't help but admire his dedication. Plus, the dynamic between him and Boy adds a nice layer of emotional depth to the story. Now, I know what you're thinking. This movie sounds like it's all about the action, but what about the story? Well, the story is actually pretty engaging. It's not just mindless fighting. There's a deeper narrative at play here. The film explores themes of survival, revenge, and the quest for identity. It's surprisingly thought-provoking for an action movie. But as much as I enjoyed Boy Kills World, there are a few things that didn't quite hit the mark for me. For one, the pacing can be a bit uneven. There are moments where the story drags a bit.
Still waiting on the crib.
And you find yourself itching to get back to the action. Khan, give me more fights! Also, while the action scenes are incredible, sometimes they feel a bit too choreographed. Don't get me wrong, I love a well-executed fight scene, but there were times when it felt a little too polished, if that makes sense. It's like watching a dance routine. Impressive, but you can see the rehearsal. Another thing that might bug some viewers is the lack of a strong supporting cast. Boy and the Shaman are great, but some of the other characters feel a bit underdeveloped. There's potential for some really interesting subplots that just don't get enough screen time. For instance, there's a character who seems to have a rich backstory hinted at but never fully explored. It's a bit frustrating because you can see the potential there. Now let's circle back to some of the things that really stood out in a good way. The soundtrack is killer, perfectly complements the action and the overall vibe of the movie. It's gritty, intense, and just plain cool. The music really helps to elevate the action scenes, adding an extra layer of excitement. And let's not forget the cinematography. The way the film uses lighting and colors to convey mood is really impressive. There are some shots that are just breathtaking, and they help to elevate the movie beyond your standard action fare. There's one scene in particular where Boy is silhouetted against a blazing sunset. That's just pure visual poetry. So, is Boy Kills World worth watching? Absolutely. It's a high-octane thrill ride that delivers on the action front while also offering some interesting character development and world building. Sure, it has its flaws, but overall it's a solid entry in the action genre. Real quick, let's talk a bit more about the Easter eggs and hidden references.
Oh, shit. Oh.
Wow.
There are a few nods to classic action films scattered throughout. For instance, there's a scene that's clearly inspired by Enter the Dragon. It's a nice touch for fans of the genre and shows that the filmmakers know their stuff. There are also some subtle references to other dystopian films like Blade Runner and Mad Max. These little details add an extra layer of enjoyment for viewers who are paying close attention. There's even a blink and you'll miss it homage to the Road Warrior in one of the chase scenes. Also, the practical effects in this movie are top notch. There's a real sense of physicality to the action scenes that you just don't get with CGI. It makes the fights feel more visceral and real. When Boy throws a punch, you feel the impact. When he crashes through a window, you wince. It's this attention to detail that really elevates the movie. Before we go, let's talk about some other movies that Boy Kills World is similar to. If you enjoyed this film, you'll probably like Mad Max Fury Road for its high-octane action dystopian setting. The Raid is another great pick. It's got the same intense, well-choreographed fight scenes. And if you're a fan of revenge-driven narratives, John Wick should be on your watch list. Each of these movies has a unique flair, but they all share that same adrenaline-pumping energy that makes Boy Kills World so exciting. One last thing I want to touch on is the emotional core of the movie. Despite all the action and chaos, at its heart, Boy Kills World is about a boy's journey to find himself. It's about dealing with trauma and finding a purpose in a world that's lost its way. This underlying theme gives the movie a surprising amount of depth and makes you care about the characters. The dynamic between Boy and the shaman is particularly compelling. It's not just a mentor-student relationship, it's almost fatherly. The shaman pushes Boy to his limits, but you can see that he genuinely cares about his well-being. This relationship adds a lot of emotional weight to the film and makes the action scenes more impactful because you're invested in the characters. Now, let's talk about the visuals for a moment. The cinematography in Boy Kills World is absolutely stunning. The use of color and light is masterful. There's a scene in the movie where Boy is running through a forest at dusk, and the way the light filters through the trees is just mesmerizing. It's moments like these that make the movie stand out visually. And then there's the set design. The world of Boy Kills World is meticulously crafted. Every location feels lived in and real.
And danger pose a threat and danger to our way of life. Fuck. No, that's not. Gideon.
Yeah.
The attention to detail is incredible. From the rundown buildings to the makeshift weapons, everything looks like it belongs in this dystopian world. It's clear that a lot of thought went into creating a believable and immersive setting. Of course, no review would be complete without mentioning the villains. The antagonists in Boy Kills World are suitably menacing. They're not just one-dimensional bad guys. Each one has their own motivations and backstory. This makes them more interesting and adds complexity to the story. You're not just rooting for Boy because he's the hero. You're rooting for him because the villains are genuinely despicable. So, in summary, Boy Kills World is a thrilling, visually stunning movie with a lot of heart. It's got its flaws, some uneven pacing, and
finally, disguises.
Right, I'm a chef. Why am I a chef?
The dinner scene will commence very soon. Start plating the creme brulee.
a few underdeveloped characters. But overall, it's a fantastic ride. If you're a fan of action movies, this one is definitely worth checking out. Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed this review, make sure to check out my review of Monkey Man Movie Beyond the Trailer. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss an update. Until next time, keep watching and stay awesome. I appreciate you.